Hi everyone. We are starting chapter 6 on reading for college success. And if you do not have a notepad or paper or something to write with, it's important that you pause the video right now and get it because you will have to turn in your notes for this chapter. So it is expected anytime you take an online class, when there is a video that your instructor provides, you should take notes. And the same thing is true when you read a chapter in your textbook. So that's what we're going to focus on today, is reading for success. So one of the things that's important as a college student is that you embrace reading. Reading helps you grow your vocabulary, encounter new ideas, uncover theories, discover how things work. It is really important as an online student that you understand you are not able to directly interact with the different cultures and varieties of people that are on our campuses. And so the way that you do that is through actually engaging more with the material in your book and with the students in your online classes through discussions. So it's really important that you follow through and do that, whether that's reading the discussion boards, and you should try to read all of them in your classes, or at least if you're in large classes, you should be in smaller groups. You really need to read those to gain all of the insights that come from your classmates. Active reading is something that means you're engaging with the material before, during, and after you read. I know that sounds a little bit strange if you're not used to this type of reading or type of assignment, but this is different than picking up a novel or something just for pleasure reading. When you're reading college textbooks, you really do need to engage with it. So there are 3 steps to active reading, and these are very important. You need to prepare to read. So you don't just pick up a book and start reading at the beginning like you do, like I said, with a novel. You need to read with focus, and that makes a difference where you're reading and what's going on around you when you're reading. And then you need to review what you've read. So the purpose of reading in college, the purpose of reading college textbooks, is to remember what you're reading and be able to recall it and apply it. And so if you don't follow these kinds of active reading steps, then you're missing the important parts of being able to remember what you've read. And next week we'll talk about memory. So reading is a central life skill and study skill, whether you're talking about specifically preparing for exams or in the work environment, being able to follow new procedures or protocols, or understanding, I often am asked to participate in grant writing, so understanding what the grant reviewers are looking for, trying to prepare for your life in a way to read things that will help you have the kind of successful life you want. So there are lots of strategies that help you read successfully. They also help with note-taking, studying, and writing. So if you think about, I work in technology a lot, and if you think about computers, so there are inputs with the computer, and then there's some sort of effort or something that happens, a program, or if you're reading, so the input, you're reading the material and getting it, and the effort is kind of how you engage with it, and the output is what you can do with it. So inputs in college are reading and going to class. Effort is when you're taking notes and the study time that you put in. And outputs are taking tests, writing papers, or giving presentations. So it's really important that you understand this is an active, engaged process and not something that just sitting and sleeping on your book. I used to think that you could actually learn through osmosis. I am a test case that does not happen. So what does it mean to prepare to read? One of the first things you want to do is evaluate how much reading you have to do. Literally, how many pages is it? How long is the assignment? Because they don't all take the same amount of time. And some stuff is a little complex or complicated, and you may need to read it more than once. Preview the material as part of this. This is really, really important when you're reading textbooks. Read the preface or the introduction. Usually in a textbook, there's something that gives you a clue as to what it's about. Our book has that. Read the table of contents. We have a great table of contents and a summary of all the chapters in the front. So check that out. Flip to the back and read the chapter summary first. I know some people that do that with novels. They want to see the end before they actually start reading the book. I don't do that with my novels, but with textbooks, especially if you're reading to prepare for exams, you need to read the chapter summary. It's helping your brain especially with new concepts, helping your brain learn how to categorize items, what to call them, how to save them so that you'll be able to retrieve them. Look for headings and key terms, words that are in bold or in italics. And this, in the preview process, you're just kind of scanning, just looking to see, do I know what that word is? Do I have any idea what we're going to talk about in this chapter? Set up for yourselves or ask purposeful reading questions. Based on the chapter title and the headings and the keywords you've looked at, can you come up with specific questions that you want to answer or expect to be able to answer when you finish reading? This helps you focus on what's most important, and your questions can vary in complexity. Look for strategies for identifying or creating these questions. Look at the beginning or the end of the chapter for questions that are already there, and that'll give you a good start. You can create your own questions by drawing from the headings or the key terms, as I said before. Use your critical thinking skills to think about, how is this going to apply? What difference does this make? Can this help me be successful? I skipped one. Let me back up one. So again, with preparing to read, you want to use similar reading strategies with all your materials. So you're estimating how much time, skim the first few paragraphs to get a sense of what the material will cover, and scan the headings and keywords to help generate some purposeful reading questions. So all of those steps fall under the prepare to reading time heading. Mark up your reading. This is part of the reading with focus. So if you're reading with focus, you want to annotate, make notes while you're reading your textbook. That's not something I learned in high school. It's not something I was ever taught. It's vitally important when you're in college, particularly if you're in an online class. Make notes, insert your own examples, draw symbols, write summaries. Don't be afraid to use your highlighter or underline. Many of the ebook text actually will allow you to highlight in the ebook, so you'll have to learn how to use that. And it depends on what, it depends on what device you are using to read your ebook as to how easy or difficult that is. But it's worth learning so that you can mark material and you can figure out what's important later, go back to it. You want to identify the section's main ideas and mark only what's most important. You don't want to just run a highlighter through the whole thing and make everything yellow. It's got to be different, picking out important things, or it all blurs together and it's not any better than not having any markings at all. Take notes, especially if you plan to read it only once. Take thorough notes. If you're going to reread the material, you can take broad notes the first time and then fill in details later. Think critically about what you're reading. Don't just let your eyes scan over the page. Actually contemplate what you're reading and think about it. Evaluate the quality, the accuracy, the usefulness of what you're reading. Make your own conclusions. It's okay to disagree with your textbook, but think about why you disagree with it. What is it in your experience that's caused you to have a different opinion about that? Apply what you've read to your own life and to everyday situations. It's also important in college and in online classes to clarify confusing material. If you don't understand it, reread it. Invest time in expanding your vocabulary. It's okay to use the dictionary.com or the thesaurus.com website to look for words that would have similar meanings or to actually get the definition of words. As you do that, you will get used to it and you will be able to follow through and this will become more habit for you. It will help you greatly in your upper level classes. Don't be afraid to ask a classmate or a knowledgeable friend to explain something to you. Search for help online. The Khan Academy has thousands of videos on lots of different content areas. And we will shortly I'll be sharing with you some YouTube videos on college success. That there's good information out there. You just have to be able to evaluate it and make sure that what you're being told actually does fit what you're looking for. Don't be afraid to ask your instructor. You also want to boost your reading efficiency. So set brief reading goals. Don't try to sit down 4 hours before it's due and finish an entire book in 4 hours. Set brief reading goals. If you don't like to read, Set a timer for 20 minutes and make yourself read for 20 minutes and then get up and do something else. If you are reading for an hour and you're not getting anything out of it, you're wasting your time. It's like banging your head against a wall. Do something else. Move around. Go to a different room. Go outside. Take your book and sit in the car. Someone had indicated in an earlier class of mine, that's actually where they get better reading done. Not while you're driving, but parked. You can sit in the car and read. Places where you can kind of have a quiet atmosphere. You can increase your reading speed by reading in chunks, using cues. Skimming is okay, but you've got to be able to take notes from it and figure out what's important. And then the third part is reviewing what you've read. Recite, state the information you've learned out loud if you're by yourself, or in your head if you're in a public place. This helps you remember what you've learned. Summarize the information. Write down the central ideas from a reading in your own words. Use short paragraphs or bulleted lists. Think carefully about what you've read. Review and study it. Look over your notes between classes. Study your summaries. Discuss the main ideas. Recall answers to your purposeful reading questions. Sometimes it's helpful to make up your own test. Remember, we're going to have a midterm exam on chapters 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. That's 5 chapters. So you should be actually applying these skills to the time management section, the reading section, those chapters, as well as the ones through chapter 9, because we are going to have an exam on them. Don't be afraid to share your notes with a friend and see if you all got comparable information out of it. We can use Zoom. You can use Zoom without a teacher to have study groups with your online classmates. And I'll be getting into that next week and setting up some office hours for you to pop in and ask me questions if you'd like. And I'll have that in the syllabus. I'll do some during the day and I'll do some in the evenings or on the weekends. So don't be afraid to take advantage of those. Not all college reading is the same. Excuse me, I'm not sleeping very well. When you are reading for scientific classes or mathematics classes, the text is different. And a lot of times we don't think about reading math books, but you really do need to take the time to spend with the material where they're explaining how the problems are solved and what the formulas mean. So budget your time wisely. Again, there's no point in spending 2 or 3 hours if you're not understanding it. Take short chunks. Stay up with your work. It is especially in math, but chemistry, where you're balancing equations, that's all very similar to math, and it is only practice that will help you do well in those. You have to remember in math and science to follow the rules. So when you were in elementary school and you learned about order of operations and what you do first, that makes a difference, and that you're expected to know that now. Understand the symbols. If you don't know what they mean, look it up. Follow the formulas. Look at the pictures. Study the diagrams and the models, and practice, practice, practice. That's the only way many of us are going to learn, and I'm in that category, how to do math, how to get through math classes, and how to be successful. Every student at LSUA has to take at least 2 college-level math classes to get their degree. Some have to take more than that, so it depends on what degree program you're in, but you always have to have at least 6 hours of gen ed mathematics. And if you're in any kind of healthcare field, you also have quite a bit of science that is backed by math. You need to know that information. Another different type of learning is reading journal articles. So journals are scholarly magazines. They are typically written by professors for professors, right? So they're describing the research they're conducting. They're sharing new ideas or theories, summarizing their findings. Sometimes it's more artistic, so they're presenting original works of poetry or short stories or something like that. But there's different sections in a journal typically. The abstract is going to be a paragraph summarizing the article. Really good place to start if you're going to read. In the introduction, there's a review of the supporting research and a description of the research questions. So that's the hypothesis. Remember, we're reading for science. You have an hypothesis, and then you're trying to figure out whether or not your hypothesis is true or false. methods. They're going to describe in the methods section what they studied and how they studied it. In the results section, they're going to give you a description of the statistical analysis used to answer their research questions. And in the discussion part, will be the written summary of the findings or answers to their discussion questions. So the recommended way to read a journal article is actually not start to finish. It's read the abstract, read the introduction, skip over and read the discussion, because they're going to state a lot of their answers there. Then you can go back and read the methods and results sections. So some of these are very complicated theories or sections, and you need to understand what they were looking at to see if their methods and results they're presenting are logical, or that you're able to understand them and follow them. Again, journal articles are primarily written for other researchers or college professors. There's also the last different kind of reading is for online course materials. So in online courses, as you probably already surmised, you have to be prepared to do more reading. You're not getting the lectures in class typically, although some of us use videos, longer videos, some weeks than others. It's up to you to create your own schedule and make sure you can access all of your online materials. Learn how to mark up your text. Consider printing out materials that you need to save. I would recommend you always print your syllabus and your course calendar, and that you have that information readily available anytime. And then you need to read and respond to online posts. Very, very important to do that. All this relates to you eventually having a career, because you will have to read at work. You'll have to gather, analyze, and apply information. In the job that I do, there are national standards and national regulations related to distance learning that I've had to research and find out about and position LSUA to be able to participate in. You have to stay current in your knowledge base about whatever your field is. You need to know where the best sources are for the information for the field that you're in, and those are different for different areas of study or different areas of work. It's really always recommended you join a professional organization and read its newsletters. One of the things that we're working on is being able to have online students join the clubs associated with the different disciplines. So there's a psychology club, for example. There's an English majors club. There are nursing student organizations and things like that. So we want to make sure that students are able to participate in discipline-specific clubs where they can, and that information should be forthcoming very soon. You want to use reliable and reputable websites, blogs, and social media. You can't always just Google it and get the right answer. Wikipedia can have erroneous information in it. You can actually go to Google Scholar and get better answers because that is typically from educational resources or things that have been vetted. You always want to position yourself to expand your skill set, strengthen your current skills, and build valuable new skills. So please be sure to finish up your notes. You're not getting graded on these. These are the pre-notes. So I want you to just take a picture of whatever you've done or scan them and load them to the discussion forum. And we'll use those as your pre-notes. And next week, we will do 4 different types of note-taking strategies. We'll have you do some comparisons and look to see what's effective for you and what's not. And then we'll do a post-note follow-up. But please post your pre-notes by Sunday for this particular week. Thanks, and have a great day.